From the Joy News Center. This is News at 8.
Welcome to the Prime Time Bulletin here on Joy News on Multi-TV. Over the next 60 minutes, stakeholder meeting to deliberate on nationwide rollout of health insurance capitation ends inconclusively. Ghana Water Company responds to criticisms against its plan to introduce prepaid metering for water, describing the protest as unfounded. Commercial drivers without unions blamed for arbitrary fares being charged following latest increase in fuel prices. Telecom's chamber assures mobile phone subscribers increase in tariffs will come with improved service delivery. Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly announces major exercise on January 21. It says will ease congestion at the KJTR terminal. Also coming up in business with Abigail Adumaku-Entry, we have the outcome of today's economic management meeting chaired by the Vice President, the first for 2014. And then showbiz, sports and international news. Stay tuned.
News at 8 with Israel Lai.
All right, in our very first story, government is described as totally false. A claim by Minority Leader in Parliament, Osei that 2.8 billion Ghana cedis was sank into the 2012 campaign of President John Dramani Mahama. Osei on Thursday told myjoyonline.com the amount was embezzled to project the candidature of John Mahama ahead of the elections. He told myjoyonline.com, quote, because of that, even statutory commitments could not be met. For 9 months, they couldn't transfer monies into the District Assembly's common fund to get fund. Monies that were meant for road funds were taken away. Health insurance, they couldn't pay for 10 months. Now, government, in a statement issued Friday by Deputy Information Minister Felix Kwakye-Ofosu, said it regrets the fact that the Minority Leader, and I quote, chose to dabble in anti-government propaganda of the most undesirable kind when attributing the budget deficit of 2012 to embezzlement during the electioneering campaign that year. Now I'm joined in the studio by Joy News' Evans Menson, who spoke to both sides on the top story on Joy FM earlier today. Good evening to you, Evans.
Good evening, Israel.
So apparently there's been some back and forth on this particular issue. Now you spoke to Osei Chimensa-Bonsu, and he was saying that indeed he stands by what he says.
Absolutely. He says he stands by it. There's no need to apologize because government asks for an apology. He read the official statement that was not in it, but when we spoke to the man who signed it, the Deputy Information Minister, Felix Kwakye-Ofosu, before he ended, he demanded an apology from the Minority Leader, and he was absolutely clear that the government will not get an apology because indeed he stated that the word embezzlement, which indeed has criminality all around it, is mild, he says, to describe the kind of things that he thought John Mahama led his government to do in election year 2012.
Now, quickly, how does he explain the embezzlement?
Well, this is his explanation. He says we had a budget deficit of 2.8 billion cedis in the election year alone. Now, he claims that 90 to 95% of that amount was spent in the last 3 months of 2012. In the last 3 months of 2012, we know, is when John Mahama assumed the office as the president and then had to run a campaign to win the election. He says, if you put it in that context, there's only one conclusion you can come to. That amount was spent in running that campaign to project John Mahama, and that's how he won the elections. And if you do another conclusion based on that, you arrive at one simple fact, that that amount simply had been embezzled. Why? Because you cannot overspend, as far as the budget is concerned, without parliamentary approval. And that is what happened. And for him, embezzlement is a mild word to use. He calls it stealing.
So, in effect, he's saying that, suggesting that government dipped its hand into, state coffers to spend the money without authorization by Parliament, and that's his basis for concluding that this is embezzlement.
Absolutely, and he's challenging government that his point, he's made it. He's not going to apologize to them. Government can do what they please with what he said, and that if they push him, he'll even go even further and move from embezzlement to stealing on that same show. Government wants an apology, so there is this standoff. We are going to see something happen possibly on Monday, how this is going to unfold, because interestingly, Parliament is going to be recalled. We understand this issue will be taken up by the majority side of the House and getting the minority leader to offer a proper apology. We'll see how they can use the system to get him to do so, but interesting days ahead.
All right. Thank you very much, Evans Mensah. He's with Joy News, and he's host of Top Story on Joy 99.7 FM. In other stories, the nationwide rollout of the National Health Insurance capitation still hangs in a balance after a meeting to draw a roadmap for its full implementation ended inconclusively. The meeting, attended by various health stakeholders across the country, was to discuss whether to fully implement or suspend the scheme currently being piloted in the Ashanti region. The main sticking points at the end of the meeting were what the appropriate capitation rate should be and how it should be rolled out.
The over 3-hour meeting attracted stakeholders in the health sector, including former Health Minister Dr. Richard Anani, the Parliamentary Select Committee on Health, the managers of health facilities in the country, and officials of the National Health Insurance Scheme. Views as to whether the scheme should be suspended or fully rolled out were diverse and passionate. One school of thought was of the opinion that the capitation, since its introduction in the Ashanti region about 2 years ago, though has its challenges, should be redesigned and must be maintained.
So we are looking at an incremental approach to implementation rather than a single bullet. Whereas PPP would be all-embracing, capitation, the next step into capitation, we are proposing to be incremental.
The other school of thought is, however, opposed to the scheme and wants it suspended.
What one region contain all the costs for 2 years and beyond? And from the speaking of the chief executive, it means that they are implementing it. There's no pilot. Because as at now, there's no document that says that, or that tells us about the exit point for capitation. Initially, they said it was 3 months. When you put they said 1 year. So now it's 2 years going to the 3rd year. So one region is containing costs, while that is. If it is good, which I believe is not good in this current form, why can't we roll it over?
Capitation is properly packaged, and then from 2015 beyond, whichever date we think we want to do capitation, we bring it so that the people of Ghana would not complain, wouldn't have chaos in our health system.
There were also those who thought the capitation rate of 12 Ghana cedi is woefully inadequate and therefore needed to be reviewed upwards. Health Minister Shariaite, however, had a different opinion. For her, NHIA capitation remains the answer to the myriad of challenges confronting access to healthcare delivery in the country.
Yeah, the way forward is to look at what we want to do in the other regions, and then take into consideration the financial sustainability, and then also we will review the mode of the capitation, and then we'll definitely scale it up.
Former Health Minister Dr. Richard Anani lauded the idea of the capitation but expressed concern about the piloting of the project in the Ashanti region.
Capitation as a policy is not a bad policy. However, the way it has been implemented is not the best. And if government is interested in capitation, government must not be seen to be discriminatory. If government wants to send it across the country, they should. If government thinks that it is not pleasant, then Ashanti must not continue to suffer.
Meanwhile, the sub-technical committee charged to see to the redesign and implementation of the capitation has recommended intense education for subscribers of the NHIS and a total map out of health facilities for providers.
The Integrated Social Development Centre, ISODEC, is tasking the Ghana Water Company Limited to concentrate on securing investment for the rehabilitation and replacement of old water pumps instead of introducing prepaid metering for the water it supplies its customers. According to ISODEC, the introduction of the meters will only deprive the poor and vulnerable access to safe drinking water. But the Ghana Water Company disagrees.
One other major fundamental human right that clearly cannot be overlooked, besides the right to life, is access to clean and safe drinking water. Resolution 64292 of the United Nations General Assembly states, the human right to water is indispensable for leading a life in human dignity. It is a prerequisite for the realization of other human rights. This is why ISODEC believes that in no way should prepaid meters be ever introduced in the distribution of water in the country.
The main challenge of GWCL has to do with water losses, unaccounted for water. That's where government comes in, and that's where citizens also comes in. That as citizens, we should be able to add our voices for, because it looks like water is not being given the kind of priority it needs. So we need to sort of conscientize government on the need to give that priority to water and to put it on the top of the list.
According to the group, there is already a challenge with access to safe and clean drinking water, and that the introduction of the prepaid meters cannot be the solution to consumers' unwillingness to pay their bills.
What I'm basically saying is that some of these issues confronting GWCL could be tax financed. And if we prioritize water to support it with taxes that you and I contribute, I don't think we'll be doing anything wrong. So I think that is what we have to do, and immediately address some of the issues that I mentioned.
But Public Relations Officer of the Ghana Water Company Limited, Michael Ajima, says there is no way the introduction of the prepaid metering system will affect the consumer's access to potable water.
It doesn't mean that we are going to do away with the conventional meters that we are using. This will be run side by side. We are not going to places like, for now, we are not even looking at where people are living in compound houses. But we just want to identify some specific areas, start it on that small basis, pilot basis, experiment and see if it works out. That's where we might look at it on a large scale and see how it works. But for now, we are just looking at it, doing it on that small basis and see how the system will work. And we want to select the best form of equipment, the one that will not give us much problems.
According to him, the move is to encourage greater transparency and accountability in the water sector and to ensure consumers use water wisely.
It also goes to the advantage of the consumers. We believe that it will help consumers to monitor their consumption, just so in which case they will be able to manage their budgets. They won't conserve water if they know they are always able to monitor and know how much they are consuming. They will cut down on the wastage in the system, and in which case there will be efficiency in water use.
The water prepaid metering system is expected to be piloted in some parts of Accra and Kumasi. Its sustainability or otherwise would then inform a full-scale rollout or scrapping. But ISODEC does not even subscribe to the pilot program and says it will not hesitate to bring on board other civil society groups to kick against the policy which it describes as dangerous to the Ghanaians' right to water.
Vehicular congestion at the KJT bus terminal is expected to be over soon, following plans announced by the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly. The congestion is one of the biggest challenges confronting commercial drivers who operate there. But the KMA says they hope to deal with it in an exercise slated for January 21. A report by Mahmoud Mohamed Nuruddin.
The exercise would affect all long-distance commercial vehicles to reduce the existing heavy traffic at the terminal. Joy News gathered the bus terminal is meant for commercial vehicles operating within the Kumasi metropolis, but currently vehicles traveling to other parts of the country also operate from there, resulting in congestion. It takes a vehicle more than 10 minutes to access the terminal, with an equally daunting experience when it comes to exiting. The KMA's decision to decongest the terminal was reached at a consultative meeting with stakeholders at the terminal. The exercise would see the relocation of all long-distance vehicles to the Efia Kobi Market, popularly known as Abinchi Market and Swami, where bus terminals have been made available. Sami Jenfi is a special assistant to the Kumasi mayor.
We're going to move all long-distance journey vehicles, specifically those that operate to the central region, to the northern region, Wa and Tamale, to the western region, Dunkwaseshie, and all other towns in the western region. We're also speaking about cars that also operate from the KJTR terminal to Accra, and so on and so forth. These are the vehicles that we're going to deal with immediately on the 21st of January. It is our hope and prayer that as we move on, we'll roll in some other long-distance vehicles.
He noted they would only be forced out of the place if they resist.
We wish that the exercise will be smooth. Everybody will have the understanding that, what we're trying to do is in the best interest of the assembly and will therefore comply, because their failure to do so will leave us with no other option than to use force. We are determined to carry out this exercise letter. The various operators and all the other stakeholders have given us their commitment that they are with us, and indeed they will be with us till this exercise ends.
Some drivers expressed mixed reactions on the KMA plan.
In fact,
Mahmoud Mohammed Nuruddin's report.
And we have more news coming up after the break. Don't go away. Now, police at Ashiamangete are investigating the case of a 5-year-old boy who was subjected to severe beating for stealing 10 pesos from her mom to buy food. The boy is currently left with several bruises on his body from the cane marks.
The boy admits stealing the 10 pesos, but says he used it to buy biscuits after his mom starved him in the morning. He is currently receiving treatment at the Ashaiman Polyclinic after he was brought in by a neighbor who says he couldn't stand the level of abuse the 5-year-old has been subjected to on a regular basis.
He came from the mosque and met the boy standing outside. In fact, it's been happening several times, so we just told ourselves if this is the case, we wouldn't sit down, so we have to go and report it to the police. So that was why we went to the police station. We were directed to go to do so, and then we were given police form to bring the child to hospital.
The abused victim is said to have dropped out of school due to his mother's inability to pay his fees and is therefore left at home without any supervision nor care.
She's in the same house. She stays with the child, but as at the time we were leaving for the police station, she wasn't in the house. She's gone out. Do anything, honestly. She doesn't do anything. She just, I wouldn't want to say she's that type, but I can't mention it on it because the only thing is she bats and she goes out and then she comes back at late, sometimes 2, 3.
A commercial minibus driver on Wednesday ran over a group of school children at the Santasi Door Carriageway near the Pokuwari Senior High School in Kumasi, leaving 2 pupils dead and 3 others injured. Solomon Befi, who was in charge of the bus, registered AS 615609, recklessly jumped traffic, drove on the shoulders of the road, and hit 5 of the children, missing the rest by inches. Since it is unacceptable for such a tragedy to occur on a pedestrian crossing, Matilda Nyakwa then tried to experience for herself the frustration in using the zebra crossing even as an adult. Take a look.
When we were young, we were told to look left, right, and then left again before crossing the road, as if that would protect us. Then we came to the pedestrian crossing, which was supposed to be the safer way of crossing the road, because why? The vehicles were supposed to stop immediately they see you standing by the roadside. But unfortunately, that is not the case. I am standing by one of the most dangerous streets in Accra. That is arguably, I would say, the Fanofa Street. Because it's not only different vehicles that ply this road, but motor riders as well. So we are here to find out. I'm just going to try to cross the street to find out if the drivers will stop for me to pass. Follow me. So I wanted to speak to a pedestrian who uses the road just like I do, famous Tichove. Tell me, have you experienced the frustrations that go with crossing this road?
I experience the frustration of crossing this road on a daily basis because most drivers normally do not care whether someone is standing at the edge of the road or not. Almost every time I have to cross the road, I'd have to be very careful and signal whichever driver is coming from the left or the right. If I get a driver stopping on the left, I cannot trust the driver coming from the right side. So I would cross, stop midway, and look towards the opposite side to make sure I give proper signal to whichever driver is coming before I can cross. And it's not too pleasant, but one has to be careful.
This is just one of several situations in other parts of the country. Let's sit up and do the right thing. Matilda Nyakwa, Dennis, Joy News.
Now, even before new transport fares are sanctioned by the Ghana Road Transport Coordinating Council, some commercial drivers have upped their fares to reflect the recent upward adjustment in fuel prices. The commercial driver unions, meanwhile, insist no new fares have been sanctioned as negotiations are still ongoing. The GPRTU believes it is the union-less drivers, also known as floating drivers, who are responsible for the arbitrary fares. Eton Amse filed this report.
At the Neoplan station here in Accra, commercial drivers are yet to increase fares.
GPRTU and the Transport Coordinating Council, they are all discipline units. So normally when these things come, they have to sit down and then issue out instruction to their members before we can increase lorry fares.
According to them, they will only increase fares if the GPRTU gives them the go-ahead.
Because at the moment we don't know how much we are going to charge. So unless our senior men or from the head office want to bring the fares, then we can do that.
Though even if it will come on, it may be next week. I'm not sure. But whenever it comes, we shall take it in good faith. If it doesn't come, we shall hold it on.
I'm just coming from Kaswa to campus here, and it's the same old fare that I paid. Yes, so it has not affected it yet.
I'm going to Tema.
Okay, how much are you paying for your fare?
I'm paying the old fare.
How much?
6 cities.
Though we did not come across any commercial drivers who had increased fares, there were passengers who said they've had to pay more since the fuel prices went up.
First, I stayed at Medina. From there to Legon, it's just 40 pesos, and now it has been increased, so the fare, I had to pay almost 1 cedi to here before I get to Bergen.
I used to pay 80 pesos from this place to La Paz, but now I'm paying 1 cedi 20 pesos.
I'm a Kumasi based and I school in Accra, so I usually used to pay 25 cedis, but now it's been increased to 30 cedis, which has so many effects on me.
The GPRTU paints the blame of floating drivers and says they will be sanctioned if found out.
We have a lot of floating drivers around. It is not correct. It is an offense. If increment of fares will come, it will come out generally.
It is believed the new transport fares may be announced next week. Etonamse, Joy News.
The Christian Health Association of Ghana is committing some 216,000 Ghana cedis to support mental health care. The money will to be split amongst some health institutions in Ashanti, Greater Accra and Western regions as part of a 5-year program to improve mental health.
At a presentation ceremony, Executive Director of the association, Dr. Gilbert Buckle, charged beneficiary institutions to put the money to judicious use.
The various institutions here, that would be the Presby Hospital Agogo, Benito Menini Health Center in Dompoase, the Holy Child Clinic, Fijai, House of St. Francis at Sherman. You only just some of the institutions that require this kind of support. And they are looking at different things. Some providing cleaning up the environment, some renovating a facility, some building proper toilets for them to use, some providing a summer hut environment so that they can be rehabilitated. Some are just getting a washing machine to manage their sanitation and environment which they live in. So that is why the 4 institutions are here.
He said the association is also sponsoring some 5 postgraduate students pursuing courses in public health and social sciences at the master's level to conduct research into the challenges, needs and current state of mental health services in Ghana. Professor Andrew Anthony Ejay at the Department of Pathology at the University of Ghana commended the association for having the welfare of the mentally ill at heart.
And I think it's a step in the right direction. What we at the University of Ghana will do is that we'll support them with evidence-based research to know the current situation of mental health in Ghana and come out with ideas and solutions to try and help the mental patient, and also to create awareness in the general public and the government so that they can support, throw their weight behind the Christian Health Association of Ghana.
Beneficiaries also described the move as timely and promised to utilize the fund efficiently.
The money we have received, we are very grateful. We were not expecting it, and it has come at the right moment because we need money to renovate our cars, to go for outreach, to bring the children in and out, all the patients. And with this, it will help us to renovate our cars and then be able to bring them in and out instead of them living in the house.
The money, as I said, is going to be used to create a special area or environment for these patients. We're going to make sure that they have privacy. We're going to make sure that they have adequate drugs. We're also going to make sure that we emphasize on the sort of home care based services.
Muslims have been urged to let go their suspicions about secular education and rather embrace it. General Manager of the Islamic Education Unit, Alhaji Baba Yaya Khalid, at a conference on Islamic education in Ho in the Volta region, says unlike the days when the faithful avoided secular education because of the imposition of Christian names on Muslims, things have changed significantly.
Participants of the 3-day conference included Muslim chiefs, imams, women leaders and education administrators. The general manager urged Muslim parents to value education and invest in it because seeking knowledge was compulsory for all Muslims. Alhaji Khalid also called on parents, past students and Muslim communities in the Volta region to help build the 41 Islamic schools in the region and position them to compete with other mission schools.
Time was when Muslims feared to patronize secular education because the early Muslims who benefited from secular education ended up having Christian names added to their name. So our parents feared to send their children to school. Rather, they patronized their characters. Now, from 1972, efforts were made beginning in the northern region until on the 6th of July 1987, when the Islamic Education Unit was inaugurated by the then duty bearer Al-Hadi Mohammed Ben.
A lecturer at the Islamic University College and a clinical psychologist, Hajia Nasiba Tahir Swala, recommended the integration of Islamic and secular education for Muslims. She intimated that integrated education better prepares Muslim children to be independent and well-disciplined.
Islam attaches importance to our acquisition of knowledge, and education of our children is our responsibility. Therefore, we have to work hard to ensure that our children have both secular and religious knowledge hand in hand in order to make them full, efficient, and effective individuals in the community.
Out of about 300 Muslim communities in the Volta region, 4 have formal schools. Most schools in these communities have poor academic infrastructure, and many children are still not in school due to poverty or ignorance on the part of their parents. Comlado's report.
We give you all the updates in business. I'm Abigail Adumakwenchi. Now, first off, Vice President Kwesi Arthur has called for an urgent meeting between stakeholders in the downstream petroleum sector early next week to discuss recent developments in the sector. The meeting, which will be attended by officials from the National Petroleum Authority (NPA), the Energy Ministry, and members from petroleum distributors companies, is to deal with the threat of disruptions in the supply of petroleum products in the country. The Vice President called the meeting after briefings from the Minister of Energy and officials of the NPA at a meeting of the Economic Management team at the Flagstaff House here in Accra, the first EMT meeting for 2014. According to a statement released to Joy Business after the meeting, the Economic Management meeting reviewed major developments in the economy with regard to the current fiscal situation, especially the exchange rate, revenue mobilization, and government expenditure. Vice President Mr. Arthur at the meeting directed the Ministry of Finance and the Bank of Ghana to adopt the implementation of pragmatic measures to halt the depreciation of the cedi. He's also directed all government agencies and departments to ensure that government expenditure is maintained within their agreed regime. The Ministry of Finance was also asked to expedite action on the disbursement of the Chinese Development Bank loan to ensure that Ghanaians realize its benefits. Well, away from that, you probably may not have noticed, but you are now having to pay more for the calls on your mobile phone. Chief Executive Officer of the Ghana Chamber of Telecommunications confirmed the call rates have been adjusted across board for all telcos. Kweku Adosechiado explains to Joy Business the networks have been forced to up their tariffs due to the increasing cost of operations, but adds that it will help improve the quality of service.
Varying rates for the various networks said to have taken effect from Friday. The Consumer Protection Agency has, however, slammed the move it says should have first been communicated to subscribers.
I don't think consumers are very much crazy or angry about increases, but it's when the scale is not balanced. We like to do things in secrecy in Ghana. You have your consumers. If for nothing, sent a bulk text starting 17th January. We will go up from 8 pesos per minute to 10 pesos. Simple. This is not something that should be that difficult. Then they will tell, oh, but we had an ad in the newspaper. I hardly read the newspapers lately. Okay. Where some of you young people will go on the net and look at, but even the net is not even cheap anymore. So where am I going to get information?
But the Telecoms Chamber CEO, however, maintains this was done through publications in the media, among others.
It is for a network operator to increase their tariffs. It means that the options are very, very limited. Now, VAT has gone up. Together with NHIL is 17.5%. Energy costs in total constitute at least 40% of the total operational expenditure of the telecom services. And this is before the recent increases. Over the past year, the cedi has depreciated by almost a quarter. Our revenues are in cedis, and yet the equipment, parts and machinery that we require to provide continuous services are imported and paid for with foreign currency. The complaint is of course understood and appreciated, but the reality we live is that costs have gone up and we have to share the costs with customers.
The tariff increment, meanwhile, comes at a time when subscribers are complaining bitterly about the service delivered by their networks. Kweku Sechiado says the tariff increase will help the telcos address that challenge.
If your costs are rising, you've got to find the money from somewhere to pay for them, including to maintain your equipment, your machinery, as well as to invest in them and expand the services to provide more telecom masts where there are holes, where there are gaps. You need to raise money to do these. If you cannot raise the money to do these, then the quality of service will deteriorate. It will get worse if we did not increase the tariffs. It's got to be paid for somehow, either by the network operator or by the customer or both.
He was optimistic inflation for the communications subgroup, which is currently the lowest at 4.4%, will remain low as telcos will continually be rational about their decisions on tariff increments going forward. Abigail Adomakwenchi for Joy News. Well, the head of research at the Gold Coast Fund Management, Samuel Lampa, says it's predicting a rise in the cost of living in the country following the coming into effect of the new 17.5% value-added tax. According to him, the new VAT rate will also cause inflation to rise. He's therefore urging Ghanaians to ensure proceeds from the VAT go into the Ghana Infrastructure Fund to help deal with the country's deficit in infrastructure. The new VAT Act recently passed by Parliament came into effect on January 8 this year. The new act ropes in some key sectors including real estate developers, some financial service providers such as banking and insurance service providers and domestic airline operators. Analysts, however, say the new development will raise the cost of living.
One clear thing for macroeconomic indicators is inflation. I mean, inflation certainly will be upped a little bit with the introduction of this new VAT, with the introduction of the automatic pricing by the PRC. Definitely you will see utility prices also going up. What we will be watching out for is the purpose or the objective for which government gave for the increment to be justifiable. And that is where a lot of us will be. As Ghanaian, we need to look at the infrastructure fund and see whether the total value of it will be realized.
With a liberalized economy like Ghana's, Samuel Lampa is worried pricing of goods and services following the revised tax will be outrageous.
Definitely prices of goods and services will go up by the percentage. I mean, you know, in this country we do not have a methodology, a formula for pricing of goods and services. Immediately anybody hears that tax element has been increased, people tend to increase their prices just as they want it. You know, so much as we don't have a price formula, people will adjust to their prices as the way it is. And so therefore I believe that just as implementation has started, people will feel that will notice the price changes in goods and commodities.
Meanwhile, other service providers previously exempted from charging and paying VAT, including car rental companies, spas, promoters of public entertainment and local pharmaceutical companies, have had their exempt status revoked. Abigail Adumakwenchi for Joy News.
Well, striking cocoa loaders at the commodity village at Apowa in the western region have finally called off their strike action as their daily wage has now been increased to 30 pesos, which is about 50% increment, whilst officials of the Ghana Cocoa Board have also promised to provide them with their demanded welfare, including water, transportation, among several other benefits. And that'll be all for business. I'm Abigail Adumakwenchi. George Ado Jr. surely comes up with sports.
Time for the very latest in the world of sports, and the medical department of the National Sports Authority is set to organize a seminar next week that would keep various sporting health professionals abreast with modern trends in administrating healthcare to athletes who might need urgent treatment in their chosen sporting disciplines. Dr. Prince Pambo is the course coordinator and tells Joy Sports the essence of this initiative.
It's actually a seminar we have named the Sports Medicine and Emergency Medicine Seminar. We just, when I say I refer to the National Sports Authority and the National Ambulance Service, who render services at our various stadia. We're just taking an opportunity of the advantage of the league going on a break and then organizing such a sports medicine seminar for the various medics and paramedics who are attached to the various clubs, other sporting associations, not only football, volleyball, basketball, rugby, and then also for the security agencies, soccer academies all over the place. Anybody that has something to do with sports, from the medical point of view, this is a seminar for all of us. This is what we always do, and I must say, from previous experiences, it's always been quite a massive patronage. You get a feeling that a lot of the clubs, a lot of our sporting associations, people who deal with the medical issues are quite hungry for more of these seminars. So anytime, I can't remember of a single seminar we did and did not have numbers overflowing.
Now, the local Black Stars failed to hold on to an early lead against Libya in the second Group C game at the ongoing African Nations Championship in South Africa. Yaya Mohammed headed in Richard Impong's free kick after 6 minutes to put Ghana ahead, but he missed several chances to add to his side's advantage. After the break, Faisal Ali scored from the penalty spot after Mohammed Ganoudi had been fouled by Nur Sule. Here are some highlights of the game.
All right, so it was, they've done well, I think, even though they could have, if they had
held on to that lead,
hold on to that
much better
1-0 lead. In fact, I was really excited. I was, whilst producing the bulletin, then I heard that I heard Bolore announce on Joy FM that indeed the Black Stars were
ahead by 1 goal to nil. Local Black Stars ahead by 1 goal to nil.
And I said, wow,
that was
I was
good
hoping
news.
It was going to stay that way.
But you look at the game.
What are the implications?
The implications, well, first of all, let me say that failing to win the game, we couldn't confirm our qualification to the next stage. It means that we have to play the next game and win. But there's good news. A quick update here. Ethiopia, who were expected to beat Congo, lost to Congo by 1 goal to nil. This means that even a draw against Ethiopia would send us through to the next stage of the competition. Now, that's very good to start with. What it means at the moment is now we are still top of the group with Libya with 4 points. Congo have the 3 points, and they can give all the trouble to Libya. We can ease out with Ethiopia, who should be about out of the competition now because they lost 2 games, and there's really nothing to play for. So even though we didn't win, it's some good news for us.
They want to play for pride.
Yes, of course. But and before this competition, we said Ethiopia was the strongest team in the group because they had played very well, even the World Cup qualifiers, and they had this local squad that plays throughout the tournament. So for us, we felt that they should have done better, but this is what it has come to. It's still some good news for the local Black Stars, but we just have to work on the team.
Who for you would you say is the discovery of the tournament?
Discovery, I think we knew a lot about Yaya Mohammed. We knew a lot about him, but he's really telling us that he is still a Black Stars material. And we might want to look at Yaya Mohammed joining the Black Stars to the World Cup. Because I have said, if some of these foreign nationals will come and sit on the bench and not play, then let's give our local boys a chance. And I think a player like Yaya Mohammed has proven very well, especially in today's game, that he can play amongst those top-notch players in the Black Stars. So I'm expecting to see him there.
You got a point there.
Yeah, I got a point there. And the other problem is that, well, Governor Saka is disappointing me. He has a lot to do about that. But Yaya Mohammed, I think I'm going to spearhead the campaign for Yaya Mohammed for Brazil. That's definitely...
Why, you want to be his agent?
Not necessarily, but I think he deserves to be. Okay. That'll be all for sports. That's why joins us with more then.
Sports was brought to you in association with...
Veteran highlife musician Rex Omar seems to have caught a trouble at the start of 2014, having had his personal belongings, including his car, confiscated by the Tema Circuit Court B. Rex Omar is said to have mismanaged some 8,000 euros meant for the construction of a salt mining project belonging to his brother-in-law. Well, that'll be all for the bulletin. Before we go to the ground through our top stories, a stakeholder meeting to deliberate on the nationwide rollout of the health insurance capitation has ended inconclusively. The Ghana Water Company has responded to criticisms against its plan to introduce prepaid metering for water, describing the protests as unfounded. Commercial drivers without unions are being blamed for the arbitrary fares being charged following the latest increase in fuel prices. And the Ghana Telecoms Chamber has assured mobile phone subscribers increase in tariffs will come with improved service delivery. And finally, Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly announces a major exercise on January 21. It says will ease congestion at the KGTR terminal. And that's it by way of the bulletin. My name is Israel Lai. Thank you very much for joining me and have a great weekend.